Hey guys, it's Bill from Linden, Tennessee. So a little update on the dub. Uh, Up until about 2 hours ago, I was getting ready to just chalk this weekend down as really unproductive. Yesterday, I spent half the day at a friend's house just going over his solar system. We're upgrading his panels, and he's got new batteries already. But I helped him install those things and kind of recommended what he should get for his panels. So I went over there yesterday just to make sure he's got all the stuff before we get the construction guys out there to install his panels on his roof. That was yesterday, and didn't get much done with that. I did try and do a little bit of work on my chainsaw project, but that's kind of um, at a halt. I need some different screws, but um, and I did try and do some work on this, but I'm going to do a separate video on that. But Volkswagen. So since I've had this thing, I've had to get new tires for it. I had to get 4 new tires for it, which is really okay because these are just little 13. These are little 13-inch little pizza cutters. They're tiny little tires. They're only like $54 a piece, so that's pretty cool. That's cheap. And so the problem that I was having with this, and the thing I decided to tackle first before I try and make it run, is the 12-volt system. The first time I tried to do anything with it, it didn't do anything. The only lights I had was the right front high beam. The None of the blinkers worked. The hazards didn't work. The blower motor didn't work. Just all that stuff. None of that stuff worked. So the first thing I did when I was diagnosing the headlights and any of the lights was just take all the little lenses off and get behind there. Just 1157s to dual element bulb. Just got behind there and cleaned their little contact butts. This thing's been sitting outside for a long time, and it's from 1980. I doubt if any of these bulbs are originals, but maybe. But yeah, so they were all corroded and stuff, and that fixed some of them, but the headlights were not good. So I bought new headlights, but it was still the same situation. Now VW, now you can call this an annoyance. I'm starting to kind of like the idea. The fuses on this, so both the left and right, high beam and low beam, all four of those situations, each has its own 8 amp fuse. So that's kind of cool. So if you have just your right front high beam, that means that the other three fuses are maybe problematic. So there you go. Change the fuses and put new headlights on and bammo, all that stuff works. The hazards was a little bit more tricky. I had to figure out which hazard relay it was, which really wasn't hard because it's in the book. But it still didn't work for some reason. So I took the little hazard relay apart, and it didn't look like the contacts were burnt out or anything. So I just took some contact cleaner and sprayed the devil out of it and sort of blew it out really good and cycled the little relay contacts and put it back in, and there you go. Now they work. So that's cool. The blower was actually kind of tricky. It has a relay, but it wasn't relaying. But when I had all this, you're not gonna be able to see any of this, but yeah, you can. You can see it's all sort of taken apart. There's a cover that goes over the top of this, right there. The cover goes over top of this, so you can't actually see the blower motor. I wanted to get this thing apart because I could reach my hand inside that cover and manually turn the little squirrel cage for the blower, but it was really kind of hard to turn. So I just, first assumption was that this old thing is just ruined. The motor's no good. It's been sitting out there. It's had condensation get in there and leaves and rats' nests or whatever. So I took the cover off and spun the motor around a little bit, sprayed some WD-40 in there, some lube in there, and then I took some jumpers from the battery to the terminals of the resistor. Let me get a light. Let me get a light because content. Hold. Oh man. Hold on. Let me get all this unraveled. Yeah, there we go. So yeah. Yeah. So that little rat's nest there on the right is a resistor pack, and so there aren't very many series circuits in a car. So what I mean by that is to do the high blower motor, you flip the switch and it sends power directly from the battery straight into the motor. Now to do any subsequent lower speeds, it goes through a resistor. If you want to go one speed lower, you go through 1/4 of the resistor. If you want to go to a lower speed, you go through 2/4, and if you want to go to the full thing, you go through the whole thing. You know what I mean? Anyway, so yeah, that's how that works. So I just sort of jumped from the lowest to the highest just to make sure the motor even turned over at all, and it did, and it blew leaves everywhere. It was a mess. And so yeah, so I knew the motor was good, and like I said, I sprayed it, so now it spins fairly freely. That's good. So I knew that was good. Now the problem was figuring out why it didn't work, and there wasn't a ground. There wasn't a ground coming to this thing. The ground for this actually comes through the blower motor rotary switch, as well as the power to it. So all that stuff comes through the switch. And yeah, so I had to go back to the switch and try and figure out why I wasn't getting ground through it. So I took the switch out and had my little ohm meter, my continuity tester, and there wasn't any connection at all within the switch. Whenever you turned it to any position, none of the tabs were connecting to each other. So like I did with the flasher relay, I just took the switch apart, and yeah, sure enough, all the little contacts were all gummed up. There's some springs in there that push against the contacts to make sure they're making good connection. And yeah, the contacts were all gummed up, so I just cleaned that really good with some contact cleaner and some, just took a screwdriver and scraped all the crap off of it, put that back together, and voila, it works. So now I got my blower motor, so that's awesome. Now I can just finish cleaning the rest of the leaves out of there. Some of the leaves got like down in that thing there. That's where you can see the heater core. So the leaves got inside there. So I could clean all that stuff out and put some weather strip on there so to keep the elements out. And that'll be that. And I got all my lights working. The horn works. I can bump the starter. The starter does actually turn over. So that's good. Everything. Yeah, that's it. So that's the end of my electrical worries. Now it's time to start playing with the engine. All right. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.